What do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monte Sports Show. It is Taco Tuesday, June 8th, 2021. I am your host, Monte Perez, a.k.a. The Sports Whisperer. I want to thank everyone for tuning in on Sunday. We had 33 states tuning in across the country watching the full Monte Sports Show. And we have great news. Great news when you type in the search engine, when you type in the search engine for sports shows last week, what came up number one? The full Monte Sports Show. If you ain't first, you're last. If you ain't first, you are last. Ricky Bobby. Again, when you type in the full Monte Sports Show, we came up number one ahead of the Norm Macdonald Show. So we are very, very happy about that. Very happy about that. Again, if you ain't first, you're last. At least for a week or two, we were number one. We will take that. Such good news. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in and making us number one for that particular day, particular week. Normally we're at number 3, number 4, but very, very happy that we were number one. We have the best guests all across the country, and tonight is no exception. The Nuts and Bolts Sports Crew is going to join us, talk NBA basketball, what's going on. Philadelphia 76ers came out very strong tonight, sort of a kind of a desperation mode, and they were up 10-2. We'll keep you updated on that. But first, you can follow me on social media, on Twitter, MonteJP231, Facebook, Monte Perez, and on Instagram, Monte Perez 2. Our goal is to do this 5 days a week. We can only do that with your help. So how do we do this, right? How do we get to 5 days a week? Well, first of all, give us the big thumbs up on this show. Give us the big thumbs up on this show. Like it. Thumbs up. And, of course, subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. You know, guys, I'm a little disappointed. I watch shows all across the country, and I'm seeing people get thousands and thousands of followers. Thousands of subscribers. We are around 250. We need to get more. We need to get more. Tell a friend, tell your neighbor, tell your coworkers to like and subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. We start each show like we always do, with the good, the bad, and the ugly. This portion of the good, bad, and the ugly brought to you by BeamOrganics.com. BeamOrganics.com creates the highest quality functional supplements for better balance, performance, recovery, and sleep. Go to BeamOrganics.com and check it out. Again, go to BeamOrganics.com and check it out. All right, let's start with the good. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this if you're a Tennessee Titan fan. Doesn't get much better than this if you're a Tennessee Titan fan. The Atlanta Falcons agreed on Sunday. The Atlanta Falcons agreed on Sunday to trade Julio Jones. Julio Jones, the 7-time Pro Bowl player. The 7-time Pro Bowl player. And here's even better news. Now you have A.J. Brown, who my friend Jared thinks is the best wide receiver in the league. You have Derrick Henry and Julio Jones. What a formidable offensive package, right? We talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. We talk about what the Tampa Bay Bucks have done last year, getting all those offensive weapons. Well, right now you have arguably the best running back and the best 2 wide receivers in the NFL. Arguably the best running back and the best 2 wide receivers in the NFL. I mean, think about this, right? Ryan Tannehill, you kind of question him at times. You kind of question, is he the man? Well, he has more than enough weapons to succeed. So good for you, Tennessee, going for it. We know Mike Vrabel's a defensive-minded coach. They struggled last year on the offensive line a little bit, but when you have Derrick Henry, that makes up for it. They struggled defensively, but they're going for it with this trade, and it didn't cost them much. They gave up a second-rounder. So that is a great job by the Tennessee Titan. People in Tennessee should be very happy. So that's the good. Now I got to start with go to the bad. And quite honestly, this is like a same thing over and over for me. But Aaron Rodgers did not show up for camp today, and this situation is not getting any better. Again, we talked about what Tennessee just did, giving up a second-rounder for Julio Jones, a 4th rounder and a 5th rounder. If I'm Packer management, how am I not calling them and saying, oh, they're giving you a second, fourth, and fifth? I'll give you a first-round pick, a fourth-round pick, and a fifth. Ante up. Over the next 3 years, Julio Jones is going to be better than any first round the Packers are going to get, because as long as Rodgers is there, that draft pick is not going to be that high. Aaron Rodgers, it's got to be so frustrating for him. He gets guys in the second, third, fourth, fifth round developmental players. He's getting developmental players. While average quarterbacks like Ryan Tannehill are getting seasoned veterans. We talked about Stephon Diggs going to Buffalo. We talked about Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. All these quarterbacks are getting help around them. Aaron Rodgers is getting help in Hawaii. That's what he's doing. And if I'm him, I do not show up to camp. I want out of Green Bay. Bad job by Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. I'm not blaming Aaron Rodgers. Look, we've all worked with people who are not good workers. It's very frustrating. And you try to carry your department, you try to carry the company, you work your tail off. But you're not surrounded by quality workers. I'm not saying that the Packers don't have quality, but when you look at what everyone else is doing around the league to try to implement the offense, when you look at what everyone's doing, there's a reason why Aaron Rodgers is going on vacation. There's a reason why Aaron Rodgers is going on vacation and going to Hawaii. Because the Packers aren't giving him what other organizations are giving their quarterbacks. So that's the good. That's the bad. Now to the ugly. Okay. Daryl Morey is notorious for hunting superstars. As a general manager of the Houston Rockets, he acquired James Harden, Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, in an attempt to stockpile enough talent to win the championship. He's since moved to become the president of the 76ers. And he's being punished for his aggressive approach. The NBA fined Morey $75,000 for tampering. The league announced Monday the fine is due to a tweet Morey sent. Morey sent this tweet on June 3rd in regards to the Golden State Warriors point guard Steph Curry. Steph Curry's brother, Senior Steph, plays for the 76ers and scored 30 points. And Morey said to him, join him, meaning join the 76ers. Like, how stupid do you have to be? I'm sure Daryl Morey has Steph's number. He could have texted him. Why are you putting on social media basically saying, come join your brother? Why are you doing that? Come on, Daryl. It's not like you're a rookie. You know you've been in this business for close to a decade, if not more, running things. And this is what you do? You tweet out, join your brother? Come on, man. That's a terrible job by you. Terrible job. So there you have it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Yes, I have a feeling that we're going to be doing a lot of drinking today. There's a lot of it. I know people don't want me to talk about LeBron James. He's out, so there's really no point talking on him. But there is our bingo drinking card. Every time that comes up, feel free to take a shot. And again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in on Sunday. Let's do something that we love to do before we get the Nuts and Bolts Sports Crew on. Let's surf the crowd. Oh. No more tweets for Monty. I don't know what that means. He looks like Daryl Morey looks like a Russian crime lord. Wow. Let's take a look at that again. You know what? He might. He might. He does look like a Russian crime lord. Very good. See, that's pretty funny. That is very good. My camera is out of focus. Okay, my camera is in focus. It is not a peach shirt. It is it's actually a red shirt, but with the camera, it looks like it's a little pink. Wow. You're not getting to 5 days. I don't know why people listen. Happy Taco Tuesday. Yes, no LeBron talk. Wow. July 5th, you can see Aaron Rodgers playing golf. Yes, you can. Listen, I don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers, but the one thing I do know is that he needs to get out of Dodge. And I'm a Packer fan, you can tell, but all these Packer fans are like, I'm ride or die. It's time for Aaron Rodgers to move on. He's outgrown Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers has outgrown Green Bay, and that's it. I mean, there's something to be said about small town America, right? Hardworking people, church-going people, people who spend 40 years at a job, date their high school sweetheart. That's not Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has outgrown Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers is, there's a song by Sade, and it's called Maureen, and she says, "You're a souped-up car in a rented go-kart town." That's Aaron Rodgers. He's gotten too big for Green Bay. They think small. I mean, come on. If the Tennessee Titans can get Julio Jones for a second-round pick, what the hell are the Packers doing? Your priority should be to get this guy more help, because we saw in the NFC Championship game, and I hate to sound like a broken record, when they double-team Devontae Adams, other wide receivers are dropping balls. And yes, we may have to add Aaron Rodgers to our bingo drinking card, because I'm not going to be talking about LeBron James until next year, but I will be talking a lot about Aaron Rodgers. All right, so enough football, enough good, bad, and the ugly. We're going to get to the NBA, but first we're going to bring the crew on. But before that, I want everyone to know, right before I came on the air, the Joker, Nikolai Jokic from Denver Nuggets, won the MVP award. I thought it was deserved. Joel Embiid missed a little too many games, so the Joker is the MVP, so congratulations to him. Now, let's bring on the legendary Nuts and Bolts Sports crew with Jeff, Tom, Edwin. How you guys doing today?
Great.
Pretty good, pretty good.
You know,
awesome.
Jeffrey, we're going to get to it in a minute, but you got to be a little nervous right now what's happening in Milwaukee, and we'll get to that in a minute because I have some takes that I want to get to that, but let's bring on Keith Richards as well. Keith, how you doing today?
Good. How we doing?
All right, Keith, since you joined us, we're going to start with you. Before we talk about the remaining teams, let's start with you. Let's talk about the teams that need a lot of help. Where do the Knicks go from here? Tom Thibodeau won Coach of the Year. Did a great job. Not going to argue. Some people said Monty Williams should have gotten it. Some people think my Duke boy, Quinn Snyder, should have gotten it. But whatever. Tom Thibodeau has it. The problem with the Knicks is they're going to have to pay Julius Randle number one guy salary money, and they're going to do it because the Knicks are stupid. They don't realize he's a number two or number three. Where do the Knicks go from here in the offseason?
I mean, number one is they're going to have to pay Julius Randle. If they don't pay him, someone will. Like you said, it's debatable whether he deserves it or not. I think he had an amazing season, but that was one amazing season. I mean, he didn't play terrible last season. He was way better this season, but do you pay someone just based on one season? I don't think you do, but that's what they do in the NBA. Outside of that, they got to add some depth. I mean, you look at their backups. You got Taj Gibson, Alex Burks. He's not terrible. Nerlens Noel is your starter. He had a good season as well. I don't think you really want to bank your future on him. First and foremost, after signing Nerlens Noel, they need a point guard of the future. Derrick Rose, he's not that old, but his knees are old. You can't expect him to last much longer. So I don't think Imman Quickly is terrible, but he's a shooting guard by trade. They need someone there as soon as they can to replace Derrick Rose. Maybe not this next season, but season after that for sure. I think they got to be looking at that.
Edwin, as a Knicks fan, it really bothers me that, people are talking about this as a success. First of all, they were the higher seed and they lost to the Hawks. And we're going to get to that in a minute because I'm the only one who's been on the Hawks bandwagon who lives outside of Atlanta for 3 or 4 months. I've been talking about the Hawks and Trae Young. They're getting spanked right now. No big deal. You thought the Sixers would come out and dominate them. They're losing 28-10. But how is this a success? Are the Knicks so bad that a first-round playoff upset is a successful season? Is that what it's come to if you're living in New York?
I mean, I think it has, to be honest with you. I mean, the Knicks haven't had, a playoff appearance in how long. So, for New York fans, it's been a blessing for them to see their team and the way they dominated this season, dominated as in getting to the 4th seed and getting into the playoffs and having that home court advantage. obviously didn't work out too well, but I do think that, like I said last week, the Knicks are 1 or 2 pieces away from actually contending and being a big problem in the East. Just go after that big fish, that guy that can hit shots late in the game, because this season it was Julius Randle, but I'm not too sure or too keen on him hitting game-winning shots or late-game shots, if he's to stay with the Knicks. So I'll go for a big fish, continue to add to that bench. And as Keith just said, I would go after a young point guard. For me, it would be Lonzo Ball, a guy who's a 3-and-D kind of player who could, use his sense in the passing game as well, too. So the Knicks are in a good spot. They're in a good spot.
Dom, see, this is where I disagree. The Knicks are not in a good spot, okay? Tom Thibodeau got his ass handed to him coaching in this first round. He had no answers for what the Atlanta Hawks were trying to do. And here's what's so frustrating, Dom. Okay, Tom Thibodeau gets Coach of the Year. But in every late-game situation, he didn't do anything. So how are the Knicks in good shape right now? Because let's be honest, in a championship team, Julius Randle is the third option.
Right. So you're feeling some of the frustrations that I, as a Chicago Bull fan, had when Tom Thibodeau was our head coach. But so obviously you're disappointed, right, if you're the Knicks because of how this series played out. But let's be honest. The Knicks overachieved this year. And this was all kind of really early for them to be this high of a seed, to be playing the playoffs. Like, no one really expected the Knicks to be much of anything this year. So the fact that they got there was a miracle in the first place, right? But on top of that, the Knicks, they went up against a better team in the Atlanta Hawks. And I know the Atlanta Hawks are, they were the lower seeded team. The Hawks were better. The Knicks were a great example of what a team can achieve if they just go and try hard every single night. They were the team of will. They went out and they played hard every single game during the regular season. Well, that's great during the regular season. Come playoff time, when everyone's playing hard, and now you're playing up against a team that, quite honestly, is more skilled than you are, you're gonna see what happens. And we saw what happened in the first round. So for the Knicks, I think practice a little bit of patience. I understand, because everyone always wants to go the whole, we need to go and sign the big free agent or make the big trade. You've got some pieces. The biggest thing for you all was you learned Julius Randle isn't a number one option. So now you need to go and find one, but practice a little bit of patience. This was real early.
A great point.
You overachieved.
Okay, Jeffrey, who would you have given Coach of the Year to? Do you think Tom Thibodeau deserves it, or would you have gone in a different direction?
Thibs, no, I think he just got the New York vote. What about Steve Nash? He totally overachieved. All I heard going into the season saying, well, there's no way a guy could go from playing the NBA to getting this big collection of egotistic superstars through the NBA playoffs. Now, what I've seen through the first 2 games against much more experienced Mike Budenholzer, Nash has been totally taking Bud to court, outmaneuvering him in every aspect of the game. And by the way, I don't care what you say, Andrea, I'm not taking off my Giannis jersey.
We're going to get to that. So you're saying Steve Nash, you would have voted for Steve Nash as Coach of the Year?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, Dom, we're going to start with you now. The Portland Trail Blazers. Look, I've seen this act for 3 or 4 years. It's the same thing. Damian Lillard scores 50, gives 10 assists. They lose in the first round. Now, there's something to be said. Again, if you're working for a job for 40 years to provide for your family, you stay there, loyalty, that's admirable. There's nothing admirable about staying in Portland, which, by the way, if you tell by my background, my dream job is covering the Oregon Ducks and the Portland Trail Blazers. Would love to live there. That's one of my goals, okay? But Damian Lillard's got to get the hell out of Dodge, right? Or he's got to say, look, guys, I kind of lost respect for him where he said that he wanted Jason Kidd. Then he said, well, it's up to the organization. Damian, you're the face of the franchise. Do you want to go like Patrick Ewing? Every year you lose. He's got to look around the league and see what the Clippers are doing, see what the Lakers did last year, see what Milwaukee did by signing Drew Holiday, and what Brooklyn is doing. How is he so passive?
So, and I love Damian Lillard, and I do love his approach, because he's like the black sheep of the NBA, where in an era where everyone else is like, yes, I want to team up with all the superstars, Damian is like, no, I actually want to build something here in Portland and I want to win on my own merit. And I get that and I respect the hell out of it. But Portland needs to do right by him. I don't necessarily think Dame has to leave, but Portland has to do right by him. You got rid of the coach. CJ McCollum was an absolute bust in the playoffs this year, barely averaged 20 points a game. He's a big part of the reason why they lost to Denver, which I personally feel like they should have won that series. But if you're Portland, you have to change up something. You have to get Damian Lillard a legit running mate. You have to get him, and you don't have to build some crazy super team because Dame is one of those guys. He's just that good. If you give him a true running mate to keep alongside him that will keep up and match his production, you will be fine. I know you're in a deep West. It's tough, but Portland has to figure something out because Damian Lillard is only going to have this mentality of homegrown for so long.
Yes, I agree with that. And one of the other things that I really, really don't like about this whole situation is it's going to be hard for people in their prime to go to Portland. So you need something here, Jeffrey. So can I say bring in Becky Hammon and let players want to play for her and let's see what happens? Because it's going to be damn hard to get free agents to go to the Pacific Northwest where it's always raining. You're traveling 6 hours across country. You know, one of the things that I'll never understand is why Dallas doesn't get more free agents. No state tax. Each trip is 3 hours long. Who do you want to see them hire?
Well, Becky Hammon would be great. The question is, does the NBA, do they mean what they say when they talk about social justice and equality? Yeah, we have to go beyond just the headlines. I'm afraid. Like I see, if I can offer a bit of attention, the WNBA, we know they say so strongly they support the black man, and yet Coach James Wade, there was an official that made a racist comment against him, and the guy was still officiating. So Becky Hammon, yeah, that would be fantastic. But is the NBA ready? They're always pushing it back. Well, this isn't the right time. She was interviewed in Milwaukee, but it was my uncles are kind of like the Rooney Rule. Like they had interviewed her just to say they could interview her. Someone needs to make a stand and go ahead and make the call and take the risk. Because you, as Doug Pearson said in Philadelphia, you are not going to the NBA Finals with conservative play calling.
Of
Take
course.
the risk.
Take the risk.
Please. Enough safety picks.
Keith, who do you want to see in Portland? What coach would you recommend?
I think Becky Hammon would be a good choice. But really, I don't think it matters who the coach is. I love Damian Lillard. I'm sure he really does believe in the whole loyalty situation. But if the Blazers want to rebuild that team, which obviously they're trying to do some type of rebuild by firing their coach, you got to trade Dame. He is your best player, but you clear a crap ton of money off of your salary cap. Team's going to give up a king's ransom as far as picks for Damian Lillard. So it may not be good for ticket sales initially. It may not please the fans. But if you care about your team winning in the future, the only thing to do is to trade Damian Lillard.
Especially, Golden State is not really a small market. It is considered because it's outside of LA. So it's not the Clippers, it's not the Lakers. But Golden State was terrible. They built through the draft. Edwin, I got to be honest, man. No one's going to Portland as a free agent. So I think Keith is right here. Do you trade Damian Lillard?
I'm not too sure about trading Damian Lillard, actually. I feel as though he has this mindset that he wants to stay in Portland. And if he continues to have that mindset, then I think it would be wise for the GM to actually build around him, like Dom said. I can see them building through it because the main problem for me with the trade is coming with the second unit. I just feel as though they ran an 8-man lineup throughout the whole playoffs, and that showed why the team wasn't as deep as it should have been and why Dame had to pretty much carry the load, and CJ gave him no help as well, too. But for me, if you can't attract these second-tier free agents to come in and at least contribute to the second unit, then I can see the draft being a way as for them to, build the team, get some depth in, and then hopefully compete for next year.
Yeah, but the problem with that is they're always the 4th through 8th seed. So you're not getting the high quality pick. And listen, Greg's mocking me here, but I had a winning percentage of 88% over 10 years of coaching, and that's why I'm in the Rand Paul Hall of Fame, Greg. So you can mock me all you want about coaching Division III. But, all right, let's move on. No one wants to hear about me. All right, Jeffrey, we're going to start with you here. Listen, I've defended him for 2 years. I'm done defending Anthony Davis. He came to shape. He came to camp 15 pounds out of shape. He's made out of glass. How are the Lakers going to blow this up? Because Pat Riley, which we'll get to next, said they're blowing it up. What do the Lakers need to do? You can't trade him. So who are you trading? I heard a very, very good trade. Kyle Kuzma and another player for Buddy Hield of Sacramento. Get another shooter.
Boy, that'd be great. But the problem with the Lakers is what they did so brilliantly with the Anthony Davis trade. They knew that with LeBron James, they just needed one more sidekick. So they had all these role players and draft picks, which weren't really enough. Traded them to New Orleans. Anthony Davis. There isn't that kind of guy out there in the free agent market this year. There isn't. The Lakers have always been the land of the stars, right? There is no big white knight who's going to come into Los Angeles alongside LeBron and lead the team further. So they've got to be on AD. There's no one else they can really go to who is equal to his potential as a player. LeBron's got to. LeBron always talks a big game about being the big guy, right? Well, he's got to tell AD, listen, man, you got to come in shape. You got to come ready to play. It shouldn't be this hard, Monty. These guys.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. Edwin, we'll go to you next. What are the Lakers going to do? There's talk about maybe C.J. McCollum. There's talk about getting more shooters because, quite honestly, Kyle Kuzma, talk about regressing. I mean, Kyle Kuzma was terrible in the postseason.
He was terrible. And, for the Lakers, for me, I think that everybody is traded aside from the likes of – so I would keep Alex Caruso, KCP, and I would also keep Dennis Schroeder. But aside from that, and obviously LeBron. But aside from those four players, I'm not really too keen on this whole Lakers squad. So I would actually go the route of getting more three-point shooters, TJ McCollum, Buddy Hield, these kind of players. But, for me, it lies a little bit deeper than that. With Anthony Davis and on the side – it's tough for me to really advocate for keeping him because he's making $32 million this year, right? And how do we be able to move him? He is court, which is his availability. If I'm being honest, if he's not serviceable through that, then how can he contend and how can he give his minutes for the Lakers squad? I'm not too sure how that would work because I'm sure and certain that no one would rather trade for his big contract and the potential of him being unhealthy throughout the season as opposed to getting this great player in Anthony Davis, who can, change the whole squad and the whole unit. So for me, I would add more three-point shooters, but I'm a little worried about this Lakers squad, to be honest. I'm not really too sure on how they bounce back next season.
I'm very nervous. Dom, give me one or two trades KCP took off. Magic Johnson, first of all, I don't care what Magic Johnson says. Magic Johnson couldn't get Kawhi Leonard there. He brought him out to dinner, tweeted about it, and Kawhi, as weird as he is, was like, I'm out. Dom, so Magic Johnson is saying that Dennis Schroeder is not his type of guy. Dennis Schroeder on his social media accounts took off the Lakers guard. Dennis Schroeder will not be back. They have a ton of players that are coming off the cap. Drummond was horrific. Montrezl Harrell probably won't be back. He was very, very upset that he wasn't getting playing time. But here's what I don't understand, Dom. Frank Vogel's getting a lot of criticism. He won a title last year. And they were injured and they lost. Whatever it is, what it is. Eric Spoelstra's not getting any criticism from going to the championship to getting swept with a better roster than they had last year. First answer, what do the Lakers do? Where do they go? And why is Eric Spoelstra getting a pass?
So I think the Lakers and the Heat are the two teams, and I've spoken about this before, that probably were affected the most in the positive aspect during the hiatus and during the bubble, right? I think Jimmy Butler's leadership and just his ability to get guys to lock in during the bubble was extremely important. And then for the Lakers, I don't think anyone benefited more from having a 4.5 month hiatus than the Lakers did, because it gave you 36-year-old LeBron James 4.5 months off to rest. It gave you Anthony Davis, who's always injured, 4.5 months to rest, right? So that's why I feel like you kind of see how those teams go different. As far as the Lakers, what they do moving forward, the one name that keeps coming up in my mind is Bradley Beal. I think Bradley Beal is done in Washington. And if you can pull it off, if you can make that trade, that's a lot of money that you're going to take on. But granted, like you said, you have a ton of guys moving off from the cap. You can pull it off. you'll be a big three, and then it's going to be slim pickings for the rest of that roster. But if you have those three, you can kind of make it. And then as far as Eric Spoelstra with the Heat, I think while the Heat got better, the Bucks got better as well. Now, I don't think any of us expected this series to go the way it did. I think that the Miami Heat definitely regressed, and I think it was a very disappointing showing by them. But Eric Spoelstra still, I think, is a very underrated coach. I don't think he gets brought up enough when we talk about some of the better coaches in the league. It happens. You ran into Giannis. You ran into a really good team. Again, getting swept is unacceptable, which is why we heard, Pat Riley say that, they're going to be very active during this offseason. What moves do they make? We'll see. But I think Eric Spoelstra has just kind of gotten to that point where, like, people kind of give him the benefit of the doubt if he has a bad series. Like, once you've had that longevity, you kind of get to a point where people kind of throw you a bone every once in a while when you have a bad year.
Yeah, listen, people are still saying Greg Popovich is a great coach, but he hasn't evolved because he hates a three-point shot. Okay, so Keith, I'm going to get a ton of emails this week for this comment. Pat Riley said we're going to clean house. We're going to take over. We're not satisfied. This was unacceptable. But here's what I'm going to say. Pat Riley is a legend. He's great. But can we trust Pat Riley anymore? And here's why. He didn't want to trade Duncan Robinson or Tyler Hero, right? He didn't want to trade him for Kyle Lowry. He didn't want to trade him for James Harden. He signed his son Whiteside to this huge contract because LeBron left and he didn't want to lose another player. I mean, yes, Pat Riley's a god, but some of the moves that he's made and his stubbornness over the last few years, yes, they had a phenomenal run. But let's be honest, up until last year, they haven't been past the first round of the playoffs since LeBron left. So in Pat we trust, I'm not so sure anymore, Keith.
I'm going to get to the Heat. I got to speak on the Lakers because what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? The Lakers won the NBA championship last season. There's an anomaly of LeBron missing 20-plus games, which happens never. I don't care how old he is. He's still in phenomenal physical condition. As much as people talk about Anthony Davis being injury-prone, he's actually played in 80% of his games, including the playoffs, throughout his entire career. I don't understand the doom and gloom surrounding the Lakers. It was not a good season for them, that's no question, but they still have LeBron James. They still have Anthony Davis, who doesn't miss as many games as people like to say he does. They had their number one defensive efficiency in the NBA. Andre Drummond was a bust. Paul Gasol was a bust. But if they keep JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard, are we really still talking about this team being a terrible team? They are literally one 3-point shooter away from starting the season like they did the season before when they were steamrolling people before the bubble, and then they kind of had to put it back together in the bubble, and they still won the championship. Like, I don't see what the big concern is.
Well, I think the big concern
– they need to improve for sure, just like a lot of other teams need to improve. But at the end of the day, they still have one of the top 5 teams in the league needing to improve. So
first, let me break that down for a second. First of all, you said at the end of the day, which is definitely on our bingo drinking card. So cheers, everyone. So thank you for that. But I will just say this is because when you're a LeBron James team and you're the Lakers, it's like the Yankees. The Yankees haven't won since in 10 years, but it's championship or bust. So I understand the panic. I understand they did not. Obviously, Anthony Davis getting hurt affected them. I think they would have won if he was healthy. But part of being great is being available. LeBron has never missed a playoff game. So, but I get your point. It's not doom and gloom as long as LeBron's there. So I agree with you there. But Jeffrey, let's go back to the point of Pat Riley. Do you trust him still?
Well, about Spoelstra getting the benefit of the doubt, yeah, I can see that. Pat Riley, he's been around for a long time. I just look at it the way with Moneyball and baseball, there's the gut feeling versus the numbers, and numbers are get more and more important. It's the same way in the NBA, maybe even more so. We see that the Dallas Mavericks last season had the NBA record in offensive efficiency. 7 teams this year broke that record. So it's not just about gut feeling or what the fans do. Well, I think like cherry picking donuts. I like this guy and this guy. No, 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 no. You have to go by the stats. And I don't know when it comes to the stats, you can teach an old dog new tricks. So I like what Boston's doing, putting Brad Stevens, the stoic mathematician genius, and his general manager. Agnew can step down. All right, good idea. He served a good purpose. Time for him to step down. Pat Riley, the Heat are being left behind in a very competitive Eastern Conference. If they can't
I
beat
like
the Bucks,
the way you're thinking. I know Evan's going to go crazy here because he's a Miami guy with Spoelstra and the Heat. So I mean, you think we're crazy here, right?
I don't think you're crazy at all. I actually have a full offseason plan on what I think we should do because there's a lot of moves that we have to make, man. Seriously. Like Pat Riley, for me, he's losing the fans' trust from being this. He didn't show enough urgency for me at the end of last season to sort of rekindle the squad and to make it better, even though it is a little bit better than last season.
Edwin, let me just interrupt for a second because I don't think it was a lack of a sense of urgency, and this is why I'm so disturbed about it. I think he thought that all those young players were going to get better, and he was like, we got this. So that's why I'm disturbed. He looked at his talent, and he didn't see that the Lakers kind of, as you get film on players, you get tendencies. You know what they can and can't do. Pat Riley thought that this roster was good enough to win a title.
Yeah, I thought so too. I agree with that. I thought that Tyler Hero would come out this season. Kendrick Nunn would come out this season and definitely have a better production than they did last season in the bubble. At least similar to that. Because Kendrick Nunn for me was an X factor coming into this series and he didn't show up. Duncan Robinson, as good as he is as a 3-point shooter, that's pretty much all he could do. And then Tyler Hero, for that matter, had a stinker of a postseason. So for me, the fact that they weren't used as trade bait was a little concerning. I would definitely use them this season as trade bait, if I'm being honest. And the whole idea of re-signing Kendrick Nunn and Duncan Robinson for $15 million, that to me is a no-brainer for not doing, actually, because I'm not really too keen on signing these guys for $15 million around. They're not $15 million players, if I'm being honest. These guys right here, they're role players at best. So I do think that we need to kind of rekindle that backcourt, rekindle the bench a little bit more. But it's a little bit worrying if you're a Heat fan right now. I'm a little worried.
Yeah, no, it's definitely concerning. We'll see what he does. Obviously, he's got the pedigree, so people are going to let him do what he wants. He has final say. Okay, got a couple minutes left. Then we're going to talk about the games that are going on right now. My Atlanta Hawks are now down 2. Again, I'm going to say this throughout. I'm not the smartest person in the world by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a borderline idiot. But I saw this before we get into the Hawks. I'm just going to talk trash here. How am I the only one realizing how good the Hawks are? They're the best shooting team remaining. They're a better shooting team top to bottom than the Brooklyn Nets. But we're going to hold off on that because I have one more topic. I just wanted to throw that out there and let that marinate a little bit to you guys. Dom, we're going to go to you. Look, I'm done with Dallas because I'm done with Kristaps Porzingis. When Boban, no disrespect to him, in a Game 7 has 14 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 assists, and Porzingis has 16 points, 11 rebounds. When Boban is playing just as good as you, Dom, it's time to move on. I just heard that Luke is going to sign the max deal, 5 years, $200 million. Where does Dallas go?
So I'm 1,000% with you on being off the Kristaps Porzingis trade. I'm tired of hearing about how he's a unicorn. I'm tired about all of the potential. He didn't produce in New York, and now it's honestly looking like New York fleeced Dallas in that trade. Like, think about it. Like, New York originally threw in Tim Hardaway Jr. as the sweetener.
I thought that was too much. I thought Tim Hardaway Jr. is a solid 3-4. He's a very good player.
Right, exactly. But Tim Hardaway Jr. was thrown in that package as like, oh yeah, we'll give you this too. Like, he was the sweetener to the deal. He's been a better player than Kristaps Porzingis has in Dallas. So Porzingis has to go. And it's funny to me that Porzingis had the nerve to come out and make comments talking about how he's unhappy with his role and how he feels like he's kind of being overshadowed and how he's not really a co-star. Well, you can't be a co-star if you don't play. And it's not not like Anthony Davis, who, yes, Anthony Davis will miss games, but guess what? When Anthony Davis is on the floor, he's giving you like 26 and 14. When Kristaps Porzingis is on the floor, it's like 16 and 9 on a good night. So
there are certain players that just, they're very good in the regular season. Porzingis was 20 and 9. But Keith, one of the things that this being a Denver Nugget guy, the fact that coaches and Rick Carlisle has got to take some of the blame here. The Denver Nuggets get guys and they develop them. They get better every year. Kristaps Porzingis Giannis has gained 50 pounds of muscle. Kristaps Porzingis made his game 20. He has no post-up game whatsoever. Keith, they got to get rid of this guy. He's not a number 2. He's a 3 or 4 on a winning team.
I don't like to boast often. I take that back. I do. I'm going to boast right now. I remember when that Porzingis trade between Dallas and New York happened, and I was one of the very few people that said this is not a good trade for the Mavs, and this is going to be a better trade for Knicks in the end. Granted, no one knew, and it's still yet to be proven, what the Knicks are going to do with the picks that they got from that. The most important thing the Knicks did was they did not have to pay Kristaps Porzingis. I don't hate on the man because he is a phenomenally talented basketball player. Where I don't give or throw so much shade at Rick Carlisle is you can't teach a player not to be injured. There's nothing you can do about that. You can maybe add more muscle and hope that helps, but I think if he added 70 pounds of muscle, he's still going to get injured. That's just
but teach him how to post up. I mean, the guy's 7 foot. He has no. I don't expect him to be Akeem Olajuwon, but at least be something. Guys, I need to pause for a second because let me just explain to you how this works. On my screen, I saw all 5 of you, and underneath is the owner-operator, Joe Cardozo, and he just tweeted, I've been waiting to 8:15. So, Joe, the floor is yours. Talk about the slew of topics that we've been talking about.
Yeah, I don't even know where do I begin. What's up, everybody? Just keep the conversation flowing, man. I had so many thoughts, but now half of them are gone.
Okay. Let's talk about Dallas, Joe. What do they do in the offseason? I don't understand, to be honest with you, how they don't get more free agents. First of all, travel-wise, they're in the middle of the country. So you're not taking 6-hour flights. You're taking 2-3-hour flights. Second of all, there's no state tax. And Mark Cuban treats his guys like gold. They have the state-of-the-art facility. Dallas is an amazing, diverse city. Joe, why can't they land free agents?
I'm not sure. That's a good point. I mean, you brought up good points. I mean, the first thing they got to do is you got to get rid of Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, what I saw in Game 7, whether the rumors about him feeling like second fiddle and not being focused on by the organization are true or not true, he's got to go. I mean, it was Game 7. That was a chance for him to really rewrite the narrative and what people think about his career. A lot of people thought he was injury prone, showed some flashes in Dallas. A lot of people like myself thought maybe this is the resurrection of his career. I'm not impressed with this kid at all so far. You got to find a sucker. That's what I would call him, a sucker team that will still have faith in him, make the trade. And then Luka Doncic is one of the greatest players in the NBA right now. So I would hope having Luka on your roster will lure some free agents to want to come to Dallas and build something. Because, I mean, the big thing about the Mavericks they have to worry about is Tim Hardaway Jr. is a free agent, and that kid balled in that series last playoff. So he's going to be – a lot of teams are going to be coming after him.
Yeah, Joe, and we'll get to one more topic, what we were talking about. I know you love Eric Spoelstra, Joe, but you cannot go to the NBA Finals and get swept with basically the same roster. Joe, I can't have it. I'm tired of this guy not winning without LeBron, and I know you're going to defend him.
You get a mulligan. He has a championship, man. You give the guy a mulligan. He was a 5th seed last year in the bubble, made the NBA Finals. Yeah, he didn't win it, but he made the finals. A lot of teams in the NBA would have killed to have made those finals. You give the guy a mulligan. If we're having the same conversation next year, then I think you got to have a different kind of conversation. Might be trying to move on because, like anything else in sports, after a while, having the same voice over and over again, preaching, gets stale, it gets old. The players tune the coach out. You have to start thinking, could that possibly be happening in Miami if you have a situation with Spoelstra having the same kind of season they had this year? I mean, what happened with the Miami Heat, it's kind of like I heard Keith talking about the Lakers and the anomaly of having LeBron James miss so many games. There's no way the Miami Heat would have known that Tyler Hero would be more concerned with making rap videos and being popular on Instagram than making buckets in the court. But you would have Bam Adebayo in and out with injuries. Jimmy Butler even had a little bit of a bout with injuries as well. So you got to figure if that team can be healthy, add a couple pieces, not Bradley Beal, Dom, and the Miami Heat would be just fine. Okay,
Keith, you got to give the people what they want. You're giving the people what they want. Let's check out Keith's baby right here. Oh my God, so adorable.
She doesn't want to be on.
Look at her.
Got it.
Oh.
All right, well, exit the stage, baby.
That's adorable. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get Joe, more conversations with Joe, who's waiting in the background. I cannot believe I didn't see you on my screen here. I know, yeah, we're matching shirts. Gotta love that. All right, you're watching the full Monte Sports Show live on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel, and make sure that you like this particular show. Give us a thumbs up, and tell your friends to subscribe. You're watching the full Monte Sports Show NBA preview, second round, live on YouTube.
The Team Nuts and Bolts Sports Store is officially open. Log on to www.teamnbsmerch.com and get your t-shirts, hoodies, polos, all sizes available. Once again, log on to teamnbsmerch.com. Get yours today.
All right, guys, this portion of the show is brought to you by East Coast Covers, the Smart Commuter Motorcycle and Bicycle Cover. The Smart Commuter Cover was designed with 40 years of riding experience and delivers a high-quality, long-lasting, American-made product with the size, style, cover to whatever two wheels you ride. They made a great cover for me. I know it's a little small here, backpack with my logo on it, so check them out. Go to East Coast Covers. Check it out. Their website is ECKNYC.com. Again, ECKNYC.com. Check it out. You can get whatever you want on your logo. For someone who's an avid bike rider, this is great. I'm so happy they made me this. So let's move on, guys. We have so much to talk about, Joe. We're going to start with you. Atlanta took game one. Again, I've been talking trash all game. I'm the only person outside of Atlanta who thinks this is the most. First of all, it's the best shooting team in the league. And what's winning now? We're seeing it with Brooklyn, 3-point shooting. Joe, why aren't people giving Atlanta the credit they deserve?
I know for myself, just because they're young and experienced, and I'm just wondering when they're going to buckle under the playoff pressure. And so far, it hasn't happened. I mean, tonight's game is a little bit more competitive on the Philadelphia side, but that's been my main thing, just not having that experience of being in the playoffs, the big stage, what they struggle under pressure. Obviously, they played the Knicks. We knew going into that, they had the better roster. I will admit that, and it showed by obviously beating the New York Knicks. So now going up against the Philadelphia 76ers, Philadelphia has to win this game. It's a must-win. If the 76ers go down 0-2 heading into ATL, oh my God, the headlines will be relentless on the 76ers players. So this is a big game for them, but I know for myself, I had no faith in Atlanta just because of the experience. I just figured that at some point in time, they hit a roadblock, stumble, and not be able to recover. And so far, they've been just fine.
Tom, let's go to you because, obviously what I love about this team is that the Knicks had Derrick Rose, the Knicks had Tom Thibodeau, the Knicks had, certain players who had playoff experience who played with Thibodeau. But it's the Atlanta Hawk team in game one, even though they panicked at the end, but it's the Atlanta Hawk team that is hitting big shots on the road, winning games on the road. This team plays like they're all veterans.
Yeah, and like Joe mentioned earlier, the Knicks, again, we're a good example of a team that just what you can achieve if you work hard. But the Hawks had the better roster, right? That was just clear and obvious. That was a series of skill versus will, and skill won out. Also, the Hawks seemed like a team that wanted it more as well in that series. But I like the Hawks. I feel like it's a little too early for them. They're very young. They have time to develop. As far as this series goes against Philly, I don't see them winning this series. I don't see the Hawks going on a 17-0 run ever again in this series. They have no answer for Joel Embiid, who, mind you, dropped like 40 points with a torn meniscus.
But Dom, that's what's so worrisome. He dropped 40 and they lost.
Well, I mean, that's because Doc Rivers, who in my opinion is one of the most overrated coaches, decided that it was a good idea to put Danny Green on Trae Young when you have Ben Simmons and Tyus Thibault right there. And when he did that in the second half, Trae Young was relatively neutralized for what Trae Young has been doing in the postseason. We're seeing it right now. Trae Young shooting 4 of 9 from the field, only has 11 points. So the game plan has changed. I think the second half of that game between the Hawks and the 76ers is more reflective of what you're going to see from the rest of this series. I think that first half is an aberration. You're not going to see anything like that again. You're not going to see this Hawks team go up 29 points against the 76ers team.
Jeffrey, I know you're high on Doc Rivers. I'm being sarcastic. Has Nate McMillan got enough credit because they were the second best record team since he took over in the NBA?
No, I mean, Nick McMillan is one of the guys who gets beaten down for no reason. Like we see with Indiana, it's like, wow, man, you can't win a playoff game. Yes, but it's just like in playoffs in baseball, every single game that's a 12-session game in the NBA, it's pretty much a coin flip. The coach can't really decide that. And all those Pacers losses with the roster that had much less talent than the teams that were playing, always being the 7th, the 8th seed, they were still competitive. Like when the Cavs swept them in 2017, it was the closest 4-game sweep in NBA history. And now, after he was thrown the door, it's time to move on from Indiana. Now he took an Atlanta team which people had short sold for years. All of a sudden, he's got them past the Knicks team, which all of us, except Monty, thought had no chance against the Knicks. And then now I just don't think the Hawks are quite ready yet, and I'm so mad about that decision he made at the end of game 1, up 8 with 16 seconds to go and committing a foul on purpose. That stops the clock. Yes. Joel Embiid's got an and one layup, another steal. All of a sudden, it's a 2-point game. So they may need to work in that less second hack Shaq strategy a bit. But I like this Hawks team, not this year unless they can win tonight, but going forward, they're going to be a power.
Edwin, I don't think listen, Sixers are desperate. They got to win this game. But I still think the Hawks win this series. What do you feel? Who wins the series and why?
I actually am going to jump on the Hawks bandwagon here with you.
Yeah!
Seriously. Yeah, because, I see this Hawks team. They're young. They're fearless on the road. And that's the biggest thing. For me, that's one of the biggest things that you have to have in the playoffs. If you can find a way to get wins on the road, what they have done so far in Philly, they did it against New York, then you have a great chance. Now they're taking the series back to Atlanta. They have home court advantage. It's looking pretty good for the Hawks side. And as you just mentioned before, they have so many 3-point shooters. The Philadelphia 76ers, they struggled with closing out on these 3-point shooters last game. And on top of that, they were a little bit sloppy on the ball. Now this game is a little bit different. They have more momentum coming into this game too. But if the Hawks do find a way to somehow come back, I think they were down by 10 last time I checked. But if they find a way to come back in this game 2 and win, this series will definitely be over because I don't see 76ers coming back and winning 4 games. Trae Young, as much credit as we haven't given him, he has done his job, carrying his team to the second round, and they have been looking fearless and in more aspects unbeatable, if I'm being honest.
Keith, I know they're saying Trae Young made a great point. He said, we've been on national TV 5 times in the past 2 years. He goes, but when I was in college, I was on national TV every time. When he bowed down at the Garden, I thought that was showmanship. Whatever, people didn't like it. But I don't want to hear this team as an experience, Keith, because Danilo Gallinari has a plethora of playoff experience. Lou Williams has a plethora of playoff experience. And Clint Capella, who averaged 15 and 14 on the year, had a ton of experience with Houston. So for everyone to say this team is young, they have a perfect mix of young and old. You're not buying into them, or are you sold on the Hawks?
Oh, I'm not buying they're going to win this series. I think that's taking it a little bit too far. As far as the experience goes, there's experience and then there's good experience. Being a fan of the Denver Nuggets, I can tell you that Danilo Gallinari is no longer on the Nuggets for a reason. because he really wasn't that great in the playoffs, or neither could he stay healthy for very long either. Clint Capella, I think, is the only one I would give props to. I think he was unjustifiably traded away from the Rockets.
He's been great. He's been great.
I've seen in a long time. I think the Hawks will get there, but I think you also have to put it into perspective. They are also a little bit victims of circumstance. You have the Boston Celtics, who I think are a better team, who suffer from injury, especially late in the year with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Kemba Walker missed a lot of time as well. And then I know we are hard on the Miami Heat, but can we not forget that Victor Oladipo missed the last, half of the season, or a good portion of the season? I don't think they would have made it back to the finals, but I think they're a better team than the Atlanta Hawks. I think they're getting up there. I think they're still a playoff team, but I put them more at probably the 6 to 8 seed than the 5 seed that they got, I think, because a lot of other things happened. But they are in good position with Trae Young, with Clint Capella, who's still fairly young, and some other players on that team that they can make the noise 2, maybe 3 years from now. But I think next season I don't expect them to be as good. I think they will be competitive, but they still got some ways to go.
And let me ask you this, Monty.
Good.
Let me ask you this, because I live here in Georgia. I've seen what these Atlanta sports teams do to these Atlanta sports fans. When's the last time betting on Atlanta has done anything for you? When's the last time trusting an Atlanta sports team has done anything good for you?
Well, here's what I'm going to say.
28-3.
He's bringing up the New England Patriots. But no, here's the deal. I am not an Atlanta Hawks. I mean, I don't live in Atlanta. I started watching them because I have Collins on my fantasy basketball team, and I have the NBA League Pass. But about 3.5 months ago, I told my friend Andrea, and we talk about it almost. I said, this Atlanta Hawk team is so good, and no one's paying attention to them. And I'm even going to put the Atlanta Hawk background up there because I am all in. This team is the Golden State Warriors before they won a title. You have Bogdanovich, who has had the second most three-pointers besides Steph Curry in the second half. Steph Curry at this stage of his career is better, and I will take Clint Capella right now offensively and as a rim protector over Draymond Green. Draymond Green's a great on-the-ball defender, but he's not a shot blocker. And Joe, I know you don't believe in this team, but we got to admit one thing. They're playing so much older than they are. They don't have a ton of experience, but they don't care. When I see Bogdanovich go into Philadelphia, and anytime they need a big shot on the road, and he's just basically quieting the crowd like he does right here, these guys believe, Joe. I
mean, at the end of the day, Drake, it doesn't matter. The Brooklyn Nets are the Monsters. They're an unstoppable force. So, I mean, even if Atlanta does get by Philadelphia, I don't think I'll give them a game, maybe even 2 against Brooklyn because of the way they're playing. But, I mean, when it comes to the East, unless the Milwaukee Bucks completely change their game plan, drink Bucks Bunny special juice, I don't see them coming back and beating the Brooklyn Nets. And I don't see the Atlanta Hawks beating Brooklyn either. I mean, to your point, Monty, yes, we have a lot of playoff experience with Capella and with Lou Williams. There's been a lot of playoff battles. And Gallinari, not just the NBA, but international basketball as well. But, I mean, to Q's point, Philadelphia 76ers are good, man. I mean, if you got a guy with a partially torn meniscus and still dropping 40 points on you, and Ben Simmons is playing so-so, and Tobias Harris has had his best game, and they still are able to come back and almost win, that gives me enough faith in the Philadelphia 76ers. They're going to put this thing together.
Okay, so you guys are all taking the Philadelphia Sixers. I'm taking the Atlanta Hawks. Let's move on, Jeffrey. I'm going to start with you, and I'm probably, again, going to get a lot of flack for this. But it's at the point where Giannis is no different than Russell Westbrook in the playoffs. He can't shoot the three. He doesn't shoot it off the dribble. He over-penetrates. There's no difference between Giannis, and there's no difference between him and Russell Westbrook. And that's not mocking him. They're both Hall of Fame players. But you need your guy to be a shooter. He is not, and he's terrible down the stretch shooting free throws. Do you agree with that assessment? And is Milwaukee in a world of hurt?
Well, they're in the world of hurt. I wouldn't be so quick to compare Giannis to Russell Westbrook because Russell Westbrook he chases the stats and he's bounced all over the place from team to team. Giannis is really true to the city of Milwaukee. But you're right, Monty. Well, first of all, the Bucks are not coming back from down tour to beat the Monster Nets. Let's get real. But there is some cause of concern with Giannis because he is not the same. You're right. He's not the same player in the playoffs as he is in the regular season. Free throw shooting is, yeah, it's bad. It's bad, and it's even worse on the road. He's a great player, 2-time MVP. Giannis, please need you to show up in the playoffs. I think the Bucks need a better mentor than Mike Budenholzer to lead Giannis to the next level.
Dom, can I say that if the Bucks lose this series in 4 or 5 games, they're going to fire their head coach?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think you're kind of, again, me being here in Georgia, I saw what Mike Budenholzer did. It's nice. He'll put together a pretty good roster. Maybe sometimes even get guys to play a little bit better. But in the postseason, for whatever reason, his teams don't seem to perform. So if they get swept this round, especially with all of the expectations that have been on Milwaukee, like Milwaukee has been the team to beat in the Eastern Conference for like the last 3 years, but somehow every year they keep getting beat. So I could absolutely see if they lose in 4 games or 5 games, Budenholzer could be out of there. But to the point of Giannis, the problem with Giannis is that he's a big man. And the truth of the matter is, even though they try like they dress him up as like, oh no, he's kind of a small forward and all, like they try and do that and dress him up. The fact of the matter is he's a big man. And if you're going to be a dominant big man in order to win a championship, you need another elite guard specifically on that team. Look at how many other big men have won championships without an elite guard. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar still needed Magic Johnson. Shaquille O'Neal had Penny Hardaway. That wasn't good enough. He had to get Kobe Bryant. Hakeem Olajuwon is really the only one who's done it, and the only reason he won was because Jordan decided to go and play baseball. So
I think they would. I think there's been. I think there was a 30-30 on this, but the Houston Rockets were all like, we would have smashed that Chicago Bulls team because if you look at during the regular season, Hakeem just dominated those teams. But Joe, one of the things I don't like about Giannis is, LeBron, when his first year in Miami, he had no post-up game. Giannis has no real post-up game, Joe. He's just a slasher. That's why I say he's like Russell Westbrook. And going back to their head coach, Joe, is he a lot like Marty Schottenheimer? He's going to get you through the regular season and then shrink in the playoffs?
Oh, that's a great reference with Monty Schottenheimer, rest in peace. I agree with that 100%. I think with Giannis, you just do a different type of offseason work. I mean, to everybody's point, he's got to develop a jumper. I wouldn't even worry about three-point shot. I understand that everyone's shooting threes now in the NBA. He wants to join the cool kids table. Let's get with the basics. Let's get a 15 to 20-foot jump shot that's consistent in a mid-range game. Let's work on our free throws and improve our free throw percentage. If he can get those two things taken care of, his game will improve leaps and bounds. And I think because he's so talented, and because you have a guy like Chris Middleton riding shotgun with them, they can still, I'm not sure how they can pull it off, but if they could, still make a move to get another elite player. I mean, Drew Holiday has been great for them. He's helped them a lot. And we talked about how bad Eric Bledsoe was in the playoffs as a starting point guard. But I think Milwaukee needs to make another move and bring somebody else in. Who is that person? I don't know. I mean, do you think that Paul George, this player option, leaves the Clippers? Do you try to bring a Paul George to Milwaukee and pair him with Giannis? But I think if I'm the Milwaukee Bucks, I need Giannis to work on his mid-range game and free throws in the offseason.
I'll tell you, Edwin will go to you, and then we're going to go to Keith with Denver Phoenix. But Edwin, I hate to say it, but Buddy Hield to Milwaukee. Buddy Hield is a guy that makes all the sense in the world. How do you feel about what Milwaukee needs to do this offseason? Do they try to blow it up? Because Chris Middleton disappears at times. And here's the problem. Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton are good players, but against elite players like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, they can't match up.
Very true, very true. I do think that they those two players are very serviceable. Buddy Hield would be a good move for the Bucks, but for me personally, I do think that they have much deeper problems when it comes to 3-point shooting because they have good 3-point shooters as it is as right now. But for me, it all depends on Giannis, right? And we've been talking about Giannis throughout this whole series. so far. He has been a liability throughout the whole entire playoffs because he can't shoot. Don mentioned that he's a big man. He's a big man that can't shoot, towards the end of the fourth quarter, which is why he's so less valuable than he should be. A two-time MVP kind of guy. For the Bucks to really go forward, he has to develop a shot like you were just saying before with the mid-range and then
a post-up game. And a post-up game. All right, Jeffrey, close it out. Do they win one game in this series or they're getting swept?
If they win game 3, I can see them. I can see them winning game 3, but if they lose game 3, then that's it.
It's amazing because I don't know who said it, but someone said that the Brooklyn Nets are like an AAU team. They don't have a lot of coaching. They don't play defense. They have no chemistry, but they just have guys who just lace them up and score 35 when they have to. Okay, let's move to Keith. Keith, listen, I have Denver. The problem I have, obviously Jamal Murray being out, but Michael Porter, he scored 26 in the first half in one game, and then he didn't score till the fourth quarter. If Michael Porter's your number 2, they can't beat Phoenix.
Yeah. I mean, they are going to beat Phoenix. I'll tell you that right now. I don't care what seed.
You think they're going to beat Phoenix?
I don't care what seed the Suns are. I mean, obviously, I watch a lot of Denver basketball because I live in Denver. But even without Jamal Murray, I still think they beat the Suns. We don't know how healthy Chris Paul is going to stay. Devin Booker has played outstanding so far in these playoffs, but there's going to be at least 1 or 2 games that Fogo is going to clamp him down. Not to mention we have the league MVP, who is a regular season MVP, who does something that Giannis can't do, which is elevate his game in the playoffs. Jokic was great last season. He got better in the playoffs. Jokic was better this season. He's getting better in the playoffs. They got more defense of Aaron Gordon, who can score when he needs to. Facu, I think, is a very underrated defender. Yeah, he's going to look bad in some games when you're guarding a player like Devin Booker. Who doesn't? That's like trying to guard Kyrie Irving. I don't care how good Drew Holiday is. Kyrie is going to get his in a few games in the postseason. I think we buy in a little bit too much of the hype of the Phoenix Suns because they got the number 2 seed, because they beat the Lakers. But just as I said with the Hawks, they were a team of circumstance as well. There were a lot of teams in the West that had a lot of injuries. I'm not trying to take away from anything they did this season. They did what they were supposed to do. They're a talented roster who won games and became the number 2 seed. But I know playing the what-if game is terrible, but let's be honest. What if a lot more teams were healthy in the West? There's no way the Suns are the number 2 seed. If Jamal Murray was healthy, there's no way people even talk about Phoenix winning the series. So, I mean, I think it'll be close. I think it still goes 7 games because Mr. Jamal Murray does hurt. But I think Jokic has been that good this season, especially when they needed him, when Murray has been out. Michael Porter Jr., he's been wishy-washy so far in this series, but if you look at his work throughout the season, he's been great. So it's a good story for the Suns, but they're not beating the Nuggets this round.
Joe, I think this is Chris Paul's time. He turned the LA Clippers around. He told Oklahoma City was tanking last year. He got them to the playoffs. He's surrounded by young talent. Monty Williams has done a hell of a job going back last year to the bubble when they went 8-0. Joe, Phoenix rolls in this series.
The rightful NBA Coach of the Year should have been Monty Williams. Yeah, I mean, why not? The basketball gods have been so cruel to Chris Paul. I mean, think about all the injuries. Think about that Western Conference Finals when he was playing for the Clippers and the injury against Portland. Just so many different hamstrings. It's torn this, broken that. If there's ever a time for Chris Paul to get his and finally try to make an NBA Finals and have a realistic chance, it would be this year. I mean, to Keith's point, they're taking advantage of circumstance. This is the time to take advantage of circumstance. I mean, you're not 100% healthy, but you're healthier than you've ever been in the playoffs for the most part, Chris Paul. And like you said, Devin Booker playing out of his mind. DeAndre Ayton, a guy that a lot of people thought would be a bust and was just a number 1 pick by default, playing great basketball. They're role players accepting their roles. I think Phoenix can win this series. I mean, if Denver won the series, would I be surprised? I wouldn't. They have the MVP of their team. They should win. They should have a reason to win because they have the MVP. But I don't shortchange the Phoenix Suns either.
Dom, I look at the Phoenix Suns, and again, just a great team. Everyone knows their roles, chemistry. Sometimes teams just click, and you just get a sense of, wow, this team gets it at least for a year. The magic happens. Anthony Davis gets injured. Everything's breaking their way. Chris Paul, they're down 10, takes over the game. But I don't think on a national level people know how good Devin Booker is. Is he a top 5 player in your eyes?
He is phenomenal. Like and I know we're not supposed to be bringing him up this much, but when LeBron goes out and tweets and says that Devin Booker is the most disrespected player in the NBA, that means something. Devin Booker is a certified bucket. And now that he has a true point guard beside him that can run an offense, because that's not really what Booker does. He's more of a weapon. He's more of someone who goes and gets his own buckets. He doesn't necessarily facilitate for others. Now that he has someone that can do that for him, you're seeing his game being elevated. Keith, I hate to break it to you. The Nuggets aren't winning this series. In all honesty, I believe the Suns are the ones making it out of the Western Conference. I just feel like everything is coming together for them. I feel like this is finally Chris Paul's year. I think that the Nuggets just have to lean so much on Jokic, and one man a team does not make, right? Michael Porter Jr. is too up and down, and when you really look outside of those two, there's no one on this team that scares you. I do like the Nuggets. I think they're a really good team, especially when Jamal Murray is there. I think the Phoenix Suns just have way too much for the Nuggets, especially when you look at the disparity between the backcourts, with Jamal Murray being out. I like Phoenix. I love Devin Booker, and I'm looking forward to seeing a Nets and Suns finals.
Hey,
Jeff,
when the Suns lose, I'll be here for you like I was there for Joe when they beat the Blazers.
All right.
I appreciate that, buddy.
Jeffrey, can we say, listen, John Stockton was an all-time assist leader, never won a title. Can I say that if you're building a Mount Rushmore, not 4, but 5, Chris Paul is a top 5 point guard of all time?
Top 5 point guard of all time. Well, it don't mean a thing if he ain't got that ring, man. He's been to the conference finals once, and then he got hurt when the team needed him the most. So, you know what? I say no. If you add your say, Monty, if you're not first, you're last.
Okay. All right. Edwin, I look at this series, and the one thing, it's just Phoenix has a ton of guys who could score, and Jokic could score 50 a night if he wanted to. But I think Denver's better when everyone gets involved. But I just think Phoenix has too many shooters. Do you think this series goes 6? Do you agree with all of us, or are you taking Keith's side and saying it's Denver's to lose?
I think the series does go to 6 games. You know, I'm also going to agree with Dom here. I say that the Suns definitely do come away with the series. You know, I don't really believe in the Denver Nuggets, and they have proven me wrong countless amount of times because I didn't think that they would beat the Trailblazers, but they did that. You know, and this team, for them to win, they have to have, in my opinion, at least 4 starters in double figures consistently scoring. And I don't really too much believe in that. You know, like Dom said, outside of Jokic and Michael Porter Jr., no one really scares me on that team. You know, and to their credit, it was close in game 1, but the difference for me was Chris Paul. He did come alive in the fourth quarter, and he provided that spark as to why they pulled away in the fourth quarter. But the Suns, to me, they have too much of a deeper team than the Trailblazers did. And the biggest difference for me is that DeAndre Ayton is a beast. You know, he's going to be
it's his coming out party this postseason.
Yeah, it is. It is. You know, and he's doing a good job so far on Jokic. I mean, it was only game 1. But, you know, Jokic from going from 30-plus to 22 points, that's a big drop-off. You know, so I'm looking at that, and I'm saying DeAndre Ayton is going to be a monster. And Devin Booker only dropped 21 points. You know, that's not really what he's been averaging at this playoffs anyway. So, you know, I look at all these factors, and I'm thinking to myself, it's not really a Denver Nuggets series for them to win.
All right, Keith is yawning regarding this conversation. Let's move on. Okay, my friend Andrew has been excited because we're going to talk about the Clippers now. Let's not talk about the past. Look, they did what they had to do. They beat a severely flawed team in the Dallas Mavericks. But here's the problem I have with the Utah Jazz, and Joe, we'll start first with you. The Utah Jazz, the Clippers' strength is their wings, okay? They have Marquise Morris. They have Batum, who's playing out of his mind, okay? Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. Who on Denver can stop any of those guys? Is Joe Ingles going to score more than 10 points? Is Bogdanovich going to guard Paul George? Do you think Jordan Clarkson is going to get in the face of Kawhi Leonard? The weakness of this Utah Jazz team is their wings. And let's be honest, their strength is their point guard and Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. But Rudy Gobert in 5, 6, 7 years, however he's been in the league, has not developed a low post game. He's not Hakeem Olajuwon. So how the hell do the Clippers not dominate the series, Joe?
Yeah, they do. They do. And also, too, you got to remember for game 1 tonight, Mike Conley Jr. is not playing, out with the hamstring. So, I mean, the hamstring strikes again. First James Harden and now Mike Conley. So you got to wonder, is that going to be a lingering injury that's going to nag him the whole series? Is he even going to be available moving forward for the rest of the series? So I think for the Clippers, you got a scare with the Mavericks. Hopefully that's a wake-up call. Their third guess. I mean, Kawhi Leonard was like, I'll say it, Jordan-esque at some moments in that last series, man. He just took over the game. His mid-range game, long shots, defending the best player when it's time for him to step up and defend the best player. I think the Clippers just have too much for the Utah Jazz. Because of the season they had and because of the star that Donovan Mitchell is, I give them a game. But I think at the end of the day, stop saying it, Jeff. Golly. The Clippers win this series for sure. I'll say
Edwin,
LA.
I mean, I agree with Joe here, Edwin. Edwin, do you think Donovan Mitchell can pull a Luka and get this to 6 or 7 games? How do you see the series playing out?
Definitely. I don't know why people are constantly disrespecting the Utah Jazz. To me, they are one of the deepest teams in the NBA, if I'm being honest. And for the Clippers, they are severely flawed in the fourth quarter. And, there was countless amount of times in that series against the Mavs where the reason why they won games was because they were up big. When they beat a Utah Jazz team, it would never be a blowout to me. Like, I don't see a blowout happening unless it's Utah Jazz part where they're not the Clippers. So if they come into a phase where they have to score, they have to defend in the late game, they're not pulling off the victory. Donovan Mitchell, for me, he's going to be able to get his, obviously. I do expect Joe Clarkson and Joe Ingles to carry more of the offensive load this game one because Mike Conley is out. But for me, the Clippers scare me in a way that they don't know how to finish games. Unless they're blowing out these teams by wide margins, they're not really getting the job done. And it took 7 games to beat a Luka team that didn't have a second option. To be honest, if Luka had a second option, we wouldn't be talking about the Clippers right now. We're being honest.
Okay, but this, I'm just going strictly on matchups here. I mean, do you think Joe Ingles could be able to create a shot in the fourth quarter if he has Kawhi Leonard or Marquise Morris in his face?
Joe Ingles is not a predominantly. I mean, he a runner-up for 6th man of the year, obviously. So he does have that capability to do so. And maybe not so much against Kawhi and Marcus Morris, but he will struggle a bit of times. But to me, they have more guys that can create their shots on occasions than the Clippers do, if I'm being honest. So
you think that they are coming out of the West? Utah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, Jeffrey. I know you disagree with that, right? This is the Clippers series to lose. Donovan Mitchell can score 35 a game. They still don't have enough. Or do you see it like Edwin sees it? This is Utah's series.
I see it as Edwin sees it. Here's why.
Wow.
So, yes. What's with all these people throwing eggs at the Utah Jazz just because they're a smaller market team and they don't have the big name players? What I said about Pat Riley, I'll also say about Steve Ballmer. He's like the guy who races and gets that new Mustang, but he doesn't know how to drive shift, so he's sitting there in the driveway going, what do I do now? The Clippers they're just this all-star team, but the pieces don't fit together. The Jazz are a real team, and they're a dynamic isolation three-point shooting team, one of the best in NBA history. They're finally tailored to today's version of NBA basketball. No, the Clippers definitely have a chance to win. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's going to be like a runaway for the Jazz. But I think that the Jazz don't deserve the amount of disrespect they're getting. I could see them, I'd say, about even money with the Suns to make the finals.
Wow. Okay, Dom, listen, I just think the Jazz have been a great story. Quinn Snyder, I think, should have got Coach of the Year, him and Monty Williams. But it's just a matchup problem. It's just a bad matchup for them. They have no one to stop Paul George. They have no one to stop Kawhi Leonard.
Well, Paul George may stop himself. We know what he does in the playoffs. But I do agree with you that this is just a bad matchup for Utah. I think, especially when you just look at the fact that the weakest point on this Utah Jazz's team is their wings. And that's the biggest strength for the Clippers. The Clippers, I honestly feel like the Clippers exercised some demons in this last series. You know, having their backs up against the wall, going down 0-2, and everyone, I mean, yeah, you always say, oh, we put that behind us. We don't think about it. Everyone on that Clippers team was thinking about what happened in the bubble last year after they went down 0-2 to Dallas. And the fact that they were able to finally dig deep and pull out a win in this series, I think that gave them that confidence and gave them that kind of character building moment that they need to move forward. I like the Clippers in this series. I like the Clippers to win it in 6. I like Utah. I like Donovan Mitchell. I think a lot of people don't recognize just how great he truly is. Seeing him go back and forth with Jamal Murray in the bubble last year was incredible. I think it's going to take some Herculean efforts out of him, like what we saw last year, for them to pull out some of these games. But again, it's just a bad matchup. You know how like in boxing they say styles make fights and things like that.
Yes.
It's just a bad matchup for Utah because you have no one who can do anything with Kawhi or Paul George, and Kawhi looks like he's gone full Terminator mode right now, scoring like 40 points a game and shooting 60% from the field. He's on another level. I don't see him slowing down. I like the Clippers.
You know, and I'm glad to see, because Jeffrey always gets compliments. I'm glad to see Andrea going after him a little bit here. The Clippers will come together. Yes, I like to see that. All right, Keith, if this was 1988 to 1996, I would say the Utah Jazz are the best team because they have a dominant big man and a point guard. But this is not 1988. This is not 1996. How do you see this series playing out?
You know, it's not 1988 or 1996. That is correct. It is 2021. And in 2021, the Jazz were, despite how many bad matchups they have, one of the top three-point shooting teams in the NBA playing in the Western Conference. I'll believe the Clippers come together when they come together because they've yet to come together, whether it be with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George or with Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. They haven't done it. I'm not putting my faith in the Clippers to win a big-time series until they win a big-time series. Unlike a lot of people, I picked the Clippers to win in 7 against the Mavs because I didn't think Kristaps Porzingis would play well. I thought he would get hurt. He didn't get hurt, but I didn't think he would play well either. So he didn't get hurt. Good for him. But I just don't trust the Clippers to play 4 games of consistent, unbeatable basketball. Until they do it, I would love them to prove me wrong, but I don't see them proving me wrong in this series. Kawhi Leonard is going to continue to get his. He's always gotten his. But being a fan of the Denver Nuggets, I will never forget Paul George shooting a 3 and hitting the side of the backboard when the team has the opportunity to move on. And that might be the worst example for him and all the bad things that he's done, but he's had plenty of terrible playoff games in his career, especially with the LA Clippers, for me to not believe that they are going to beat, again, a little bit lucky, the number 1 team in the West, especially the way that the Jazz have shoot threes. And they've shot threes like that all season. So I don't expect that to change in the playoffs. I don't care how good the wings are for the Clippers, because it's not just their primetime wings for the Jazz that are hitting threes. They have people coming off the bench hitting threes as well. So I think the Jazz are just going to be too much for the Clippers. I'm taking the Jazz in 6.
Okay, we got about a couple minutes here, and then we're going to close the show. Give Joe a couple minutes since he missed the first. He didn't miss it. I kind of. It's almost like he was Isaiah Thomas at the Olympic tryout. We just didn't give him the ball. He's one of the best players. I'm going to give him the ball. So we're going to give him time. Keith, we'll start with you. Tell us who goes to the NBA Finals from the East and the West, and how can we follow and support you?
from the East, who else is it going to be? It's the Nets. I mean, they're the Avengers pretty much. As much as we don't want to see it, I mean, I waited as a betting man. I waited to the last possible second to get in on the Nets at plus 600 to win the championship.
Right.
And I'm glad I did because I'm going to win a lot of money off of it. Because just the way that the season has worked out, even without James Harden playing, which honestly I think they're better when 2 out of the 3 superstars play versus all 3 of them playing. There's just no one who is good enough to beat them this season. I don't know if that's going to be the same next season. We'll see how health ends up being. The schedule hopefully won't be condensed like it was this season. That screwed a lot of teams. But in this season, I think the Nets are coming out of the East. And honestly, I think it's going to be the Jazz coming out of the West just because of the way they shoot the 3. Their defense isn't horrible. They have a great rim protector and Rudy Gobert. But in today's NBA, you look at what the Golden State Warriors did. When you shoot the 3 at that level, you win games. And very few teams shoot the 3 better than the Jazz do. So I think the
Atlanta Hawks. I think the Atlanta Hawks do, and that's why I'm just going to go back to this beautiful background I have up here. Keith, how can we follow and support you? Love having you on, man.
Oh, yeah. So at 5280 Keith, a little busy, so I need to get back on my writing game, but I'm always there to talk trash on Twitter.
All right. Appreciate you, Keith. See you down the road. Thanks so much for coming on. All right, Jeffrey, who gets to the finals?
Well, earlier on, the Suns winning everything. I saw the Suns making it, but this time I'm changing my mind. Gasp! I have the Nets beating the Suns. Just what I've seen from the first 2 games against the Bucks. The Nets are, as Joe says, they're just an absolute avalanche, right? Blowing over the tiny little wooden town that was Milwaukee. That's just destroying everybody. I don't see them losing 4-7 to anybody this year.
You know, it's so funny because my brother keeps saying, Jeffrey picked the Suns and you mocked him, so you owe him an apology if they go 4. I'm rooting for the Suns. I'm rooting for Chris Paul. So if they do, yes, I do owe you an apology. And how can we follow you, Jeff?
Yes, well, follow me on Twitter. It's just my name, at Jeffrey Newhome. Follow all these fine gentlemen. And please follow our main account, at Nuts and Bolts SP. It's a great meme, news, entertainment. It may not be the flashiest name you're going to see on Twitter, but it is definitely one of the most entertaining.
Thank you, Jeffrey. We'll see you next week. Love having you on, my friend.
Thank you.
Take care. He's so funny. All right, Dom, thanks for coming on. First time joining the group. You definitely held your own. You could bat 2nd, 3rd, or 4th as far as I'm concerned with this group. Dom, so you live in Atlanta. You're still not buying into the Hawks.
Yeah, listen, I live in Georgia. I did a whole piece in college about how Atlanta is a cursed sports town because of things that have happened in the past. Like literally, we did a whole piece on it. So I am wary because I've seen the Atlanta sports fans get their hearts crushed way too many times in my 16, 17 years of living here, right? So yeah, I'm sorry. Would it be cool?
But can I say that it's just house money at this point? It's not like they overachieved already. They upset the Knicks. No one thought they would except me. They're going to beat the Sixers. I'm telling you. The Sixers should run away with this game, and they're battling for their lives. So it's house money. But who do you like? Brooklyn, obviously, coming out of the East. Who's coming out of the West?
So, yeah, I said it. I like Phoenix. I like the Suns. I'm actually right on par with Jeffrey. I think Nets over Suns in about a 6-game series for the finals. The Nets are just way too stacked right now. Like we said, they're the Monstars, and I feel bad for Chris Paul. Like I feel like every time Chris Paul has like a legit chance to win a championship, he runs into some super team, right? Like he was with Houston, ran into Golden State, was with the Clippers, ran into the Spurs. Now he's in Phoenix, is going to run into the Nets. It's a rough life, but like I said, I like the Nets. Even if James Harden isn't healthy for that series, I don't think they need him. I didn't think they needed him earlier on in the year. So I'm taking the Nets over Suns in a 6-game series.
And how can we follow you and support you?
So you can see, and let me point right there. Yeah, right there at Don the Sports Guy on Twitter. follow me there. I have a link to my Instagram page and all that other stuff too. I also have my own sports podcast that I do on called Instant Replay. You can follow that or catch that anywhere that we have podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Music, all that other stuff. But yeah, and we're gonna be getting a sports show for Instant Replay soon as I get the necessary equipment. So yep, that's where you guys can get me at, and follow all the other stuff. Thank you for having me on.
Definitely. I tell everyone this: put your show on my page. I'll definitely retweet it so my followers could listen to you and follow you and support you. And if you're available next Tuesday, we'll see you next week.
All right. Yes, sir.
Thanks so much. All right. Second to last right here, Edwin. I know the Miami Heat are not going to the NBA Finals. So Who do you got? You got Brooklyn in the East. You're taking the Utah Jazz, right?
Yeah, I am on the Utah Jazz bandwagon, but I do have the Brooklyn Nets coming out the East. I just do really think that the Jazz have a deep unit, and I think that they will prove that in this matchup against the Clippers. But, I could be wrong, but right now I do believe in it that the team has a good shot at winning the finals, or at least getting to the finals for that matter.
All right, Edwin, and we can follow you how?
So you guys can follow me at KingsLoft on Instagram. My Twitter handle is TheRealEddie03. That's 2 D's, 2 E's, 03. You can talk trash on Twitter, talk trash on Instagram. Doesn't matter to me. And also follow Nuts and Bolts Sports. We'll be posting an article this week coming about the Atlanta Hawks and whether or not they will win the series. So keep in mind about that.
Joe, you can tell he's young because he puts his Instagram account up, and us old heads put our Twitter handle up there. So thanks, Edwin. We'll see you next week.
Sure. See you next week. Thank you so much for having me.
Great job. All right, Joe, we got about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions since you didn't get on early on. Give us about a 30-second answer, little rapid fire. All right, Joe, what are the Lakers doing now? Where do they go? Who do they get?
You got to go after shooting. I mean, I can see them going after a guy like Buddy Hield. I think you just have to get some more shooting, bring back Alex Caruso. Your biggest chip is the guy you don't want to get rid of. I mean, you've given Kyle Kuzma so many opportunities to be the player you thought he was going to be. It's just not working out in LA. I say you move that piece and just to get somebody else.
Okay, second question here. Are we breaking up the Washington Wizards? Joe, no matter who they bring, they're not going to bring in for salary cap a great player because both of those guys are making money. They're talking about getting Drummond, but Joe, it's time to break this team up. No matter what happens, they're not going to be better than Brooklyn. They're not going to be better than Milwaukee. They're not going to be better than Atlanta, and they're not going to be better. So are you satisfied with being 7th and 8th seed every year with this core group of those two guys?
Well, of course they're not satisfied. I think if you're Tommy Shepard, the general manager of the Wizards, you got to try to see what you can do. Is there a third person we can bring in? I mean, I saw a lot of great growth from Rui Hachimura, a lot of dumb, silly fouls early in games, which kind of got him out of key games. But I think when you saw a healthy Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal on the basketball court together, those guys are dynamic. So, I mean, you have to wonder, what are we going to get from Rui Hachimura next year, and what free agents could you possibly sign? I know the salary cap obviously is a pretty hard thing for the Wizards, as it is for most teams in the NBA. But I think if I'm Tommy Shepard, before I just throw my hands up and say I'm done with this thing, what, if anything, can I get to make the team better?
So you're going forward and you keep them together.
If I can get some other pieces. If I can't get other pieces, you got to do what you got to do, which means
okay. If I told you right now, next year, the Golden State Warriors are the best team in the West, are you saying I'm crazy or I'm closer to the truth than most people think?
Well, as the vice president of the Golden State Warriors Haters Club, I have to say that you are closer than most people think. Because, I mean, you talk about Steph Curry, a healthy Klay Thompson who is hungry and chomping at the bit to get back on the basketball court. James Wiseman was the number 1 overall draft pick for a reason. Remember, DeAndre Ayton, he should have been the number 1 pick. It's a fluke. James Wiseman can play. And then also, obviously, Draymond Green. And it's also Golden State. Just with those 3 players, with Klay Thompson, with Steph Curry, with Draymond Green, someone's going to take a veteran's minimum that we weren't expecting to, and they're going to sign with the Golden State.
All right, final 2 questions here. Let's, for argument's sake, the Sixers lose. Is this another knock on Doc Rivers, who I think Atlanta has more talent? I really do. I think in today's NBA, we're watching teams who just shoot the lights out advance. Is Doc Rivers' legacy on the line here?
I don't know about legacy, but I think it can make the shorter leash because he's always going to have that. He can always hang his hat in that 08 Celtics team. But I think as far as what he's been since he won that championship, yeah, it can definitely change the narrative. I mean, right now, you and I are talking, it's 80-79 Atlanta with 2 minutes left in the third quarter. No one saw that coming. We thought that the 76ers would steamroll these guys. So I think if he doesn't get success in the postseason with Philadelphia, it's a little bit of a tarnish on him, but I think the legacy still stands because of what he did with those Celtics teams.
All right, final question, Joe. I don't think Tom Thibodeau deserved Coach of the Year. I thought Quinn Snyder should have got it. You're saying Monty Williams?
Yeah, Monty Williams, man. Monty Williams all the way. I thought that the Phoenix Suns would be an 8th, maybe 7th seed. Happy to be here. What I've seen from that team, the growth of Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, incorporating Chris Paul has just been phenomenal. I think Quinn Snyder's a great 1B, but for me, it's definitely Monty Williams.
Yeah, but can I say that the missing piece was Chris Paul?
And a good coach, yeah.
I mean, what Quinn Snyder has done, number 1 seed in the West with Donovan Mitchell, and let's face it, Rudy Gobert's not an offensive juggernaut. I don't even think he's better offensively than Clint Capella. So how is Quinn Snyder overlooked here?
I would just say because, like you said, Donovan Mitchell's an established superstar. I thought that Utah was a middle-of-the-road team. So, I mean, they kind of went from being, in my opinion, a 4th and 5th seed to going up a couple of notches. I thought Phoenix would barely scrape it in and make the playoffs. To be as high as they are, to do what they did, you can talk about Anthony Davis being injured and stuff all you want. It's not easy to go into Staples Center on a closeout.
No, fair enough.
This is LeBron James. Put up 47 points, win the game handily. That's not easily done.
No, it's not. And Joe, I just looked down and saw your text. Yo, let me in the room. I'm still here. You don't understand. There's 5 things that are underneath. And then the 6, I had to scroll down. I didn't see you. That's why I didn't let you in. It wasn't like I was icing you out. All right, Joe, how can we follow you? How can we support you? And tell us about your show.
You can support Nuts and Bolts Sports by going to nutsandboltsports.com. Like I tell people all the time, just a great staff, just pumping out articles. I mean, we're getting to the point now where it's 3 or 4 articles a day, and it's everything from hockey to golf to soccer to NBA, NFL. It's just growing. It's super exciting times. It's great to be a part of it, obviously. You can follow me at Joe Cardoza 301 on Twitter. Always on Twitter talking trash, talking about my obsession with all things iced coffee. I don't know how Monty drinks that black poison with no sugar at all in it. More power to you. Like you mentioned, brand new show on our YouTube channel called Just 3 with Joe. Dropped the debut episode of Memorial Day. Had a really good time talking to my guy, Warren Shaw. This week, I will have Marcus Luke Washington on the show. I'll be dropping that episode probably on Friday, if not Saturday. So, yeah, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you check out our content. Like I said, it's very, very diverse. But you got me and Monty with our opinions on sports. You got guys like Zach Darvis, who talks about social justice and how that kind of goes hand in hand with sports. We also have Ashmere. There's a great show, and I'm super excited for when football season starts. We got a brand new show called The Winner's Circle, which will be hosted by Ashmere. It's all about all things fantasy football, so I'm super pumped about that. Yeah, we just, as we say in our motto, man, they sleep and we make moves.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, these West Coast games are killing us. These West Coast starting time. Yeah, it's terrible, Joe.
You wake
and
up.
Listen,
you missed. It's crazy.
It's hard. I'm gonna let you go, and I'm leaving the Atlanta background up there for you because I know how I'm gonna be talking trash because that team is so underrated. All right, Joe, matching shirts, love it. See you next week. Joe Cardoza, the owner, operator of Nuts and Bolts Sports. I want to thank everyone for watching the full. I feel so bad. I didn't even see Joe in the room. I thought he was just working the thing and he wasn't going to come on. And then finally I go in the private chat and it says, hey, let me in. I've been waiting. I felt so bad. But thank you for Joe for staying on. He's still there. Really appreciate you. And again, we'll see you next week. Again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up. And in the immortal words of Llewellyn Moss, I shall return. Carla Jean. Go Hawks!